Welcome to the Surratt Brothers Podcast, a conversation about church, sports, current events, but mostly church. Today we talk about Greg's tomato garden, why baseball in the spring is the best, the college campus protests, and why every pastor should write a book, or not. Now join me and my brothers Geoff and Greg for the podcast. Welcome to the Surratt Brothers Podcast. So good that you're joining us. We are thankful that anybody listens to this. Some of my family does, and that's about all I know for sure. But we're glad you're with us. I'm here with my brothers, Geoff and Greg. Geoff, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I actually have had many, probably as many as 5 people that have reached out and said they're listening. So, hey, to all 5 of you, it's good to hear you. No, hey, I'm doing great.
Every person counts. Every person counts. It matters. Oh, just before we move on to Greg, is it still snowing in Denver?
No.
'Cause last time I saw pictures, you had snow.
No, it hasn't snowed here in 6 days. In fact, as I said,
6 days and it's May.
Mm-hmm. As we're recording, we're about 10 days from Mother's Day. And everyone in Colorado knows. In fact, I was on a stage last weekend and I said, hey, when do you start planting? And the entire crowd said Mother's Day. So we're almost there.
Jenny put her garden in like a month ago.
Good for Jenny.
A month ago. Yeah. So Greg, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm real good. If we're doing a weather report, it's about 85 today. So, we got the garden in and,
I saw you did tomatoes.
We did tomatoes. Yeah. We did a few peppers and I built a fence. What's funny is I posted, the reason you know that is I posted on Instagram about doing the garden and all of that. And actually Debbie did a good part of the work. I made a fence and just helped her with some other stuff. And there were so many comments, especially from women that said, what an awesome husband. What a great guy. Debbie just was furious. And she would say to me, she'd be over here. I'm not doing anything. And I'm sitting over here watching Nuggets or something. And she would say, you make it sound like you did all the work, because she's reading comments, from people. And so, no good deed will go unpunished. That's for sure.
Chris, have you ever experienced Greg's, when he is helping by walking around, taking pictures of what everybody else is doing and then posting it as though he did it himself? Like that's Yeah. Good job helping there,
Thanks. Greg. Yeah. He's good at that. So I am curious about the fence. Did you actually take timber and cut it and dig holes and do all of that? Or is this one of those, the green garden fence that you just put some posts down and wrap around it? What did you do?
Yeah. How far back did it go? Were you felling trees in your backyard and then running them to the mill?
Yeah, I did all of that pretty much. Actually, most of the supplies I bought at Lowe's. So
yeah. That's okay.
Yeah, it's good.
It's all right.
Keep the deer out.
I'm amazed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Wait a minute. I need a practical tool there. So how keep the deer out? My ears perked up. Yes. That's our biggest nemesis here is deer. So how high a fence did you build that keeps deer out?
Well, the deal of it is the garden is one of these raised gardens. It actually has 3 raised gardens. So my theory is the deer will have to, take a running jump at it. And, I just don't think they're going to do that. It's just a small area in the middle. So, yeah.
That's fair. We plant anything here. As you know, Greg, well, it has to be completely surrounded by razor wire and electric cord that either the deer, the rabbits, or the squirrels will find their way in.
We live out in the country, but the funny thing is we have no deer. No deer. I think the rednecks must have cleared it out before we moved out here, but we have foxes, we have coyotes, we have all kinds of stuff, but no deer.
If you want deer, we ship. So just let me know how many and what sex, and we'll get some deer out to you.
No, I'm good. Hey, Greg, I saw just real quick, last week you guys had the ARC conference.
We did.
How did that go?
It went well. Had it in Birmingham and, it was good. It was good. It's always, I usually lose my voice at an ARC conference because I just walk around flapping my jaw for hours, and it's fun. It's good. It was good. It was real good.
Good. The pictures look great. You do what you do best. You flap your jaw.
I flap my jaw.
Other people do the real stuff.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
That's good. Well, hey, I want to talk about a few things, some topics that are happening right now. I know you guys are familiar with the NBA playoffs that are going down, and also they had the NFL draft in Detroit last week, and then baseball. Baseball just started, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but I'm wearing my Cardinals hat today. Go Cards!
Good for you. Yeah. Who's in first place in the division there? I didn't check today.
Let me just say, I haven't looked at any standings, none at all.
Yeah.
But it's May, a month that doesn't count, doesn't matter at all. So I'm guessing the Cubs are in first place because they excel at leading when it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they win every May.
Yeah, and that's great.
They do. The May World Series.
They're winning this May.
Cubs.
That's for sure.
That's great.
Unfortunately, it's not an in-season tournament. They don't get anything for it, and then October they're gone. Yeah. They're just it's like they never were there.
We'll see, won't we?
So I'm curious, which one are you guys most excited about? The NBA playoffs, the NFL draft, or the fact that baseball started, and why is it baseball? Jeff?
Baseball. I like baseball. I do. I like the Cardinals. I like the Astros when I lived there.
Cheaters.
The Rockies, if they played Major League Baseball, I'd enjoy them. They do not.
You can watch other Major League teams, though, when you watch the Rockies.
I know you can. Yeah. The problem with baseball is, isn't the season 1,000 games? Like, isn't it like right at 1,000 games?
No, it's 182 games, right?
It's 162 if you're counting all of them. But it's May. Like, the Cubs are winning. Like, who cares about baseball in May? Nobody does. I don't even think the players care. Like, I think they would rather be home watching the NBA playoffs.
Let me tell you why you're wrong. There's nothing like the feeling of a baseball field in April, May. Just the green, spring training is over. It's you hear the mitt, you get the smell of the ballpark. Yeah. We're going in just a couple of weeks to see a Cardinals game at Busch Stadium. And for me, the experience of baseball just beats all of them.
I think you should do an episode on 10 things that are better than baseball in the spring, or maybe you could do 20 things.
Yeah. 20 things. Greg, have you been to a game at Coors Field, Greg?
No.
Oh, okay. Chris, have you?
I went with you.
Coors Field is one of the best places I've been to watch a game. I love it. Except in April and May, if you are not in the sun, you can literally freeze your butt to the chair. Like, it is that cold. So no, in Colorado, no, thank you. I don't like snow with my baseball.
So both of you guys claim Denver. Jeff, you're the only one who actually lives there, but I'm guessing, Greg, you're a Nuggets fan too, right?
My wife, Debbie, she might be more rabid than I am.
That's so funny, Greg, because Sherry's gone nuts over the Nuggets. She loved the playoffs last year. And now, like she said yesterday, I can't believe we don't have a game to watch. Like, she is into it.
It's ruining our sleep habits because the LA games they weren't over until 1:30 in the morning here, but we watched every minute of it.
That's crazy. They didn't come on till 10 for you guys. I didn't even think about that. They come on at 8 here.
In Hawaii, they come in at like 2 in the afternoon. Anyways. But I actually started watching. I hadn't been watching, but got home a little bit. So I watched the Nuggets Lakers the other night, and they're fun. They're fun to watch, and I think they do have a good chance. Now, I will say that their bench has some issues. There's some holes there. It's not the same team as last year. No. So my question is, are you still bullish? I mean, they took them 5 games to get rid of the Lakers. So
okay. First of all, their bench does not have issues. They do not have a bench. They have 10 guys who sit over there. None of them contribute. So they have no bench. Second of all, go back to that statement. Boy, they struggle with the Lakers. They sure did. They sure did. They only beat them 4 games to 1.
4 to 1.
That's one game from a sweep.
But they beat them
in the
11
playoffs.
In a row.
In the playoffs, they have beat them 8 out of 9 games in the last 2 years. I would say that when LeBron sits down at night and thinks, who's your daddy? He sees Jokic picture in his dreams.
You know, the Lakers, I was watching them, and I'm not a fan, obviously, with the Denver, but
most people are.
Those are some very big, talented men. My goodness. You get LeBron. How big is LeBron? 6'9"? And, you know, he is a solid 6'9", and he puts his shoulder down and he wants to do a layup. And it's like, who stops that? How do you stop that? And then, Anthony Davis in the middle, that is a huge, huge human being, and, who's very, very gifted. So when you say just the Lakers, I think the problem is that the Lakers ran into the Nuggets too early. I think you could have had, you know, maybe a West Finals with those two. So who knows?
Yeah, that's where it was, last year?
Yeah.
And also are in the Western Finals. Yeah. I did, look it up, Greg. LeBron is so tall, they had to special make his crib. They don't make cribs big enough for, LeBron. One of my favorite pictures was toward the end of the game they won. He got upset about something toward the end of the game. Like, it was on the line. And there's a picture of him jumping up and down like a little baby, screaming.
I remember that play.
Jamal Murray right behind him, training a 2 or a 3-point shot.
I'm a big 2 game winners, right?
Yeah. I'm a big Nuggets fan, but it looked to me like in that last game that, when the Lakers shot, you know, like from half court in the, you know, desperation shot, it sure looked like they were fouling the heck out of that guy. You know, but I'm glad they didn't call it.
I wondered about that. I didn't see anybody talk about it, but it didn't look like they gave him a place to come down, right? Like, that's the rule. You got to be able to land. But I didn't care because the Lakers led the league this year in the margin of how many fouls were called against them and against the other team. Like, they had like 3 times more free throws than the other team. The most meaningless stat of all time. They kept hitting it over and over again in the last game. And the most meaningless stat in the world is the minutes the Lakers led in the series.
Oh, yeah. Forever.
Who cares? Who cares? There's one stat that matters. Who has the most points at the end of the game? Yeah. It doesn't matter if they led and they kept saying it. We can't believe it. The Lakers have led the most minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they finished second.
Consolation.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Well, they won the in-season tournament, so they have.
They did.
They got the trophy.
Yeah.
They got the
That's
trophy.
like isn't that like winning the NIT? It's like, hey, yay.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to something a little bit more serious. I know you guys watching the news this week and last week, really, the college campus protests that are going on right now, the Israeli-Palestinian war that's happening. And I don't think we really need to fill anybody in, because if you're alive, you're probably seeing what's going on. But I did see today that they're finally clearing out some of the places. They're clearing out Columbia. They're clearing out UCLA. Just kind of getting them finally out of there. It's crazy to watch. And I am curious from you guys, especially, Greg, because you probably remember some of the, campus protests that happened, back in the day. Do these make a difference? And, I'm just curious about your thoughts on this as you look at, because you probably remember, some of the 70s, some of that stuff.
Yeah, I remember the 60s and 70s protests. I remember Kent State when the National Guard opened up on college students. And do they matter, or do they make a difference? Yeah, I think they do. I think that when that incident happened, it was a major, I don't know, it turned a lot of public opinion. And I think that is what this is about, is trying to focus public opinion, on the issue that they're amped up about. I'm on the other side of it. I don't understand. I read the other day that, they're negotiating. Columbia was negotiating with the protesters. And I'm thinking, what are we negotiating about? I mean, why is there a negotiation? And I think that all ended in the last couple of days with just clearing out the damage that was done. But yeah, I do think it makes a difference. It's all about public opinion.
I saw a couple schools, University of Chicago and actually Vandy here in Nashville, that took a very proactive stance on it, already had it in their kind of their system or their whatever on what they would do, what they would allow, what they wouldn't allow. And as soon as it didn't happen, they stepped in, and we're seeing some of the pain of colleges that don't have that in place. What were you going to say, Geoff?
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I don't remember as much as you do, Greg, but I do. I don't know if I remember Kent State or not, because I've seen the picture so much that I think I remember it, but I do remember the sit-ins and the taking over the offices. And it's a weird feeling for me, because I think, Greg, you and I are in the same spot. I don't know about you, Chris, but I don't agree with the protests. I just don't I don't agree with what's happening in that, but it's a weird feeling because as a teenager, I watched what the college kids were doing and demonstrating against Vietnam. And I was on their side at that time. Like, maybe I was a crazy liberal hippie. I don't know, but it just feels odd. I don't like this protest. I don't like them taking over. I don't like them ruining the year for kids. Sherry pointed this out the other day. You know, who was it? Several of them have canceled their graduations. Mm-hmm. Well, the kids that are graduating are the kids who graduated high school in 2020. Wow. So their high school graduations were canceled. Wow. Now their college graduations are canceled. Like, that's, I don't like that at all. But yeah, it's crazy though. It's a crazy situation.
I read a David French article that kind of helped me think about this a little bit, and he put it in 3 buckets, and he has a history of supporting free speech, and actually, as a lawyer, has litigated some of that on college campuses. But he said there's 3 buckets of protesters. The first one is free speech. If you're going to have free speech, you're going to hear things that you don't like. That's going to make you mad. That's going to make you angry. That can be vile and ugly, but it's free speech. And there are places at college campuses that can happen. I know every college campus I've been, they'll have a section or something where people can basically say whatever they want, and they'll schedule it. So there's free speech. And then the second one was civil disobedience. And, that's what you saw with with Martin Luther King and the civil rights, where basically they, did something that was civically wrong, but they were going to pay the consequence. So they would do a sit-in at a diner where they were technically not allowed to be, knowing they would get arrested. They didn't fight the arrest, didn't do anything like that, but just did it to bring attention. And that's civil disobedience. And then he said there's lawlessness. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of these, is where they're setting up encampments and they're not following the kind of rule of letting other people have voices, even if you don't disagree with them. And so that's what's really bothering me as I see this, is it feels like at least 90% of it is lawlessness, where colleges could have kept it hopefully to free speech and some civil disobedience.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. A great way of differentiating. I am just amazed, I guess, appalled. I just can't get past October 7th and what happened there, and that's kind of glossed over. And I probably won't go any deeper on it than that, but I'm stuck there. Big time. And so I would be one that doesn't understand at all, what's going on here, or not having it. I think I understand. I don't have sympathy with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think I'd say the same. I think it also, for me, it points out it's not surprising. I'm into my 60s. College kids think completely different than I do. Like they just don't. They don't see the world I do. I used to have a friend who would say they see a different sky, and the specific issue is troubling. But then for me to step back and go, what world do they see outside of, this conflict? And I realized I don't have any idea. Like I am not experiencing the same world that a 19-year-old student at Columbia is experiencing. Like we are seeing two different universes.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question for you guys. As far as the Israeli-Palestinian war, Hamas really is what it is, Israeli-Hamas war. How much do you think the church needs to publicly speak out on that particular conflict and other conflicts? I mean, should pastors take a stand? And I've seen a lot of pastors take stands. And what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll let Greg answer that because he'll have the definitive answer that every pastor should or should not do. But at the church I work at, one of the what was it? It was when Israel bombed Iran, right? And we didn't know on Sunday morning exactly what had happened, but we knew they had attacked Iran, and it could have blown up in something big. And so my pastor, was asking me, hey, do you think I should address this today? And I said, I don't know. Not everybody reads all the headlines before they come to church. I do, but not everybody does. So maybe not today. He said, yeah, I think you're right. And as we finished talking, a guy in the church walked up to him and said, Pastor, what are you going to say about Israel and Iran and the red heifer? And it was like, that, and I realized, what, I just don't relate. You do, Greg. I don't relate to the kind of pressure pastors are under to comment on everything, not just this.
Yeah. You're expected to be a social political commentator on every issue. Red heifers are interesting. Very interesting, with the whole deal. Yeah. It's kind of, first of all, I'm very clear on where I stand on this issue. I know, right after the October 7th thing, I have a good friend that is the Orthodox Jewish rabbi here in our community, and he's just a good friend of mine. And he and the mayor of Charleston put together a kind of a support Israel night, whatever, from downtown Charleston. And they asked me to speak at that. And I was very, very, very clear where I stand on, the issue. And I just said earlier, I can't get past the horror, rape, terror of October the 7th, we could get deeper into all of that stuff. I don't want to act like I don't know. I do. I look at all of this stuff, but, what I was going to say is I'm very clear on where I'm at on all this, but, one size doesn't fit all on pastors. And there are some that have a calling to be more of an activist, in some of the issues. And I don't have a problem with that because, we all have different kind of bents. We all have different callings, different things just different ways that we approach life. Where I have a problem is when pastors call out other pastors, or church people even do that, and say, if you really were courageous, if you really were this, you would be taking this stand and you would be doing this and going there. That really amps me up, because, we answer to God for the calling that we have. And, so I don't think there's a one size fits all. I think it's very complicated, but there's a new issue every 20 minutes. If you want to get involved, there is a new issue nonstop. And surprise, it's an election year. Anyway, one
of the things I love what you said there, Greg, where different leaders have different callings. And one of the things I like living in a larger community, and you have this, and Charleston's not as large as Nashville and Denver, but it's still large enough. And that if you want a church with a very activist pastor who's very outspoken on political issues, they're there. Mm-hmm. Like I could give you the name of one in Denver that's very, very well known, and people who are looking for that in their leader, go there, man. It's great. It's awesome. And then there are others who don't talk about, political stuff at all. That's okay. Great. Yeah. You can go there. I just like that freedom of going, every pastor doesn't have to conform to what I think they should be. And I don't have to get on social media and tell everybody what I think every pastor should be. Although I'm thinking, cause I just don't get the clicks. Like, I just got to be honest. I don't get the clicks. And I think, Chris, you and I have talked about this. If I were to go on and throw Greg just under the bus and just like spill all the tea, like I make up stuff. Doesn't matter. I think I could get some clicks.
I don't think there's that many people that care. Okay.
No,
go ahead and do
they
it,
don't.
But I don't think when you're picking on me, there's that many. I don't think you're going to get that many clicks.
Well, I think I will, though. It's not just picking on you. It's when I start exposing all of the inner stuff about you that I'm just making up. People will flock to that. Like, they don't even have to know who you are. So I don't know. I'm considering it. It's a lot of clicks. It'd be worth it.
Yeah. Anything for a click.
We had a post this week at Seacoast that went viral. So far, 500,000 views.
Wow.
All of that. And, it was Chip Judd, a piece of his sermon Sunday or a couple of weeks ago on boundaries. And, the clip, could easily be taken out of context, which it was. And it's interesting when you have something go viral. What happens in my mind is that, you've got your group of friends and they all say nice things, and then they share it with their friends and they like these people. So by the time you get about a third level out there, you're getting folks that don't care. And then it gets nasty and wild, and it's just kind of fun to watch. But yeah.
Well, we can't all be John MacArthur.
Oh boy.
We're not even going to,
let's don't go there.
No, we're not going there.
We didn't put that in the show. Nope. Jeff and I discussed it. But
no.
If you want some clicks. All right. Here's a big one. This probably is at least the same level as a college campus protest, maybe a little bit under, but the Cybertruck is finally a reality. Elon Musk teased us with this. It feels like years ago. Could have been 4 or 5 years ago. And when he first put the pictures up, everybody said Mad Max, and there's no way this thing is going to actually look like that at the end. And sure enough, it does. It is now a reality. I have not seen one. My daughter did downtown, but out in the country, we have not seen one. I understand, Jeff, you may have seen one, or Mike may have seen one.
Yeah,
so
my son sent me some pictures of one parked in front of his office.
Yeah. So my first question is, one, do you want one? Is that something you desire? And then the second part is it the ugliest vehicle since the Dodge Dart? So, Jeff, do you desire a Cybertruck?
So first of all, part 2 is very hurtful because you
owned a Dodge Dart. You
said, is it as ugly as a Dodge Dart? When Sherry and I got married, our car, we had 2 cars. We had a Honda Civic and we had a 1974 army green Dodge Dart. So that is very,
but you owned a
me.
Yugo also. So
I did. In fact, I'm speaking this weekend and I'm bringing up the Yugo the second time since I spoke.
I'll be honest with you. I don't even know what it looks like, but Dodge Dart just sounded really funny.
Actually, there was a Dodge Dart Swinger, which is actually now like a collector's car. They like it, but no, it was an ugly car. Yeah. Greg, have you seen this thing? And
I saw one
in Charleston?
No, I didn't see one in Charleston, but I saw one somewhere the other day, and it's interesting. It really is. I mean, it does look like a tank.
I've just seen pictures. I didn't realize how huge it is. The pictures my son sent, it was next to a compact car. Yeah. So can I ask something on Tesla though? So I want to ask Greg. Yeah. So Greg, you've been basically CEO. Chris and I are just flunkies. You're the king of the world.
No doubt.
And
I'm not anything anymore, really.
So I don't know if you saw, but last night, overnight, was it last night or night before? Elon Musk fired the entire group that is building the charging systems for Tesla, like they're across the country, the chargers, and all the big car companies, GM, Ford, all of them had said, okay, we're going to adopt the Tesla standard, thinking that Tesla was going to continue to develop that. And last night he fired the entire department. Here's my question, is not whether that was a good idea. How do we know? But Greg, did you ever want to lead like Elon Musk?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, not the moral stuff, all
Without
that,
a
but
doubt.
like, he just, did you ever think,
Yes.
I want to lead like him?
Yes. I mean, it would be a horrible way to lead, but there are some times you get really, really mad. You say, I'd just like to fire everybody. Let's just fire everybody. And then the reality is, no, then you have to do everything. And, so yeah, I've thought that. I've never done that. That's not how I lead, but I'm just being transparent here. Sure. Yeah.
Even to communicate like he does, like on Twitter, I don't think there is a chart with a steep enough drop off to show what Twitter has done since he bought it for $42 billion.
Yeah.
And yet he keeps it up. He just keeps saying terrible things. And I thought, yeah, I agree with you, Greg. Terrible way to lead, but sometimes it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. Unless you're the one on the other part of the food chain. That's not very fun.
Oh, so yeah, that's my other question.
That's the hard part.
Who in the world would go to work for Tesla or SpaceX or X or any of the other companies?
For enough money, you will do just about anything. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys read. Did you read Walter Isaacson's book on Elon?
I didn't.
Fascinating. But I came out of it going, I would never work for that man.
Oh,
and
no.
This was pre-Twitter, pre any of that. No,
I've
there's
talked
not
to
enough
people.
money. Not enough money.
I've talked to people who worked at SpaceX early on, and they said you can't imagine the hell of working in a company he leads. So.
Yeah. All right. Here's something before we get into some fun talk. Geoff started this last week. I thought it was kind of fun. So 3 headlines and a lie. So Greg, there 3 of these headlines are actual headlines that hit the news. One of them is not. And so I'm going to read those off and you're just going to guess which one is not the true one. All right. First one is cicadas are so noisy in a South Carolina county that residents are calling the police. All right. Number 2, Florida man rigged Roomba robot to explode on contact, then released it on a highway. Third one, the Twins' home run sausage is fueling their 8-game winning streak. And then number 4, Italian city poised to ban ice cream after midnight. I'll start with you, Geoff. Which one do you think is a lie?
Well, I want to talk about the third one in a minute because there's something, I don't think it's about the Twins, but it's about sausage that is hilarious and probably will get us banned from Apple Podcasts. I didn't look up any of these because I wanted to be honest. I'm going with the Florida man. I don't think a Florida man blew up a Roomba.
What do you think?
That's what I was going to go with too. I don't think he blew up a Roomba on a highway, at least.
You're both correct.
Yes.
I actually went to a generator that does Florida man ... and it comes up with all of those. But one of our sponsors for this episode is Chemistry Staffing. They help churches find healthy staff members. You see, they match each potential candidate with your church's specific theology, church culture, DNA, and personality to find the right person for your specific role. They believe that the formula for church staff success is a vibrant church plus a healthy staff equals long-term fruitful ministry. So if you're getting ready to start the search process at your church, or maybe you're in the midst of a search that needs a little extra help, look them up. They'd love to hear your story and see if there's a way that they can help you find your next long-term ministry staff member. And you can get a free call just by going to chemistrystaffing.com. Again, that's chemistrystaffing.com. All right, moving on. All right, this is going to be fun. All 3 of us have written books. Greg claims to have written more than he actually has. We'll probably get into that a little bit, or people think that he has, I should say. He doesn't actually claim it. But we've all written books, and I get a lot of questions about books and book writing and all that. So I thought it'd be fun to have a little bit of a discussion about our books. And then Greg has one that he's very proud of right now. So we'll talk about that a little bit, but let's just start it there. So I have written 2 books, published books. First one was Small Groups for the Rest of Us, which I stole that title from Seinfeld, just admitting it right now. Festivus for the Rest of Us, but it's Small Groups for the Rest of Us. And then I wrote one called Leading small groups for B&H Publishing on how to lead a small group.
That's a creative title, that last one, Leading Small Groups.
Small Groups. That was a publisher choice, if you can believe
Sounds
that.
like it.
Yeah, it was something else.
How did that movie do?
Well, they're optioning. It's still getting optioned.
Oh, it's not out yet. Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, it's not even bought yet, but they're working on it. We're trying to reach my deal.
So we'll get to all the books, but I do want to ask, have you guys ever had one of those spam things where they reach out to you like they want to option your book for a movie?
I haven't had that.
Oh, I have. Yeah. And the first book I wrote with Warren Bird and Greg Ligon was called Multi-Site Church Revolution. And I got one of those going, we've read your book. There's several studios interested. We want to talk to you about optioning that for a movie.
Well, that would have been a great movie. Yeah.
Jesus Revolution.
But Multi-Site Church Revolution. Can you think of a worse movie? Like that would be so bad.
All right. So, Geoff, what have you written?
So, contrary to popular opinion, I co-wrote Multi-Site Church Revolution, which was the first book out talking about that. And then we followed that up with one called Multi-Site Church Road Trip. And
how did that do?
It tanked, but it's good it did because it was terrible. I mean, it's just a terrible book. And people will come up to me and go, oh, yeah, I read that book. And I'm always honest. I said, I honestly never have. I can't make it through the whole thing. Then I wrote one on my own called 10 Stupid Things That Keep Church from Growing. And then Sherry and I wrote one together, and we are so creative. We called it Together.
That's not like leading small groups.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So any of those any good?
You know, the Multi-Site Church Revolution, the first one, it was pretty good. It really was. Warren Bird is incredibly talented. So it wasn't quite ghostwriting, but it was a little bit like it was writing by numbers. And then, the one I wrote with Sherry, is pretty good. There's some funny parts in it. We got some interviews with some great people about, their marriages and marriage and ministry. So yeah, it was good. Yeah.
Greg, what have you written?
I wrote Irreverend, was my first book and my favorite book. And then I wrote Revisioning, which was a book basically geared at ARC pastor kind of stuff. And then I recently wrote The Endurance Factor with Chip Judd, How to Live Well and Finish Strong, or Helping Leaders Avoid Burnout, Live Well and Finish Strong. So those are the three that I've written.
So one thing I'm curious about, because my two books I wrote by myself, you guys both have co-written books. Which process did you like the best, Geoff? Which process did you like the best?
Co-writing with Greg and Warren was great. We were friends, associates. Like I said, Warren has written probably 50 books. So he understood the process. He taught me how to write, not how to write, but how to write a book. And so I enjoyed that. Writing with Sherry was tough. It's just,
I can't even imagine writing with my wife.
Well, you have different styles. So who's right? Who wins on which style and all that kind of stuff. I think the end product I'm proud of, but the process, at least Sherry might not say that. For me, it was a challenge because I would rather be married than have a best-selling book together.
And Greg, you wrote your first one by yourself, and then you just wrote the one with Chip. Which process did you enjoy most?
I enjoy. That's interesting. The first book I wrote every word in it and obsessed over it, was excited about. I thought I was going to be the next Anne Lamott, who was a writing hero of mine, signed with a big publisher.
Bird by Bird.
That was a New York Times bestseller, wasn't it? Yours?
I call it
Your first book?
non-New York Times bestseller.
Okay.
There are reasons for it. It probably wasn't that good, although it's still my favorite. And I signed with Hachette, which is a major publisher. They had 3 Christian authors at the time, Joel Osteen, Joyce Meyer, and myself. One of these doesn't look like the others. And then the big Hurricane Sandy hit New York just around, the time when my book was supposed to come out. They actually apologized to me later, about what a poor job, all of that was. But, it floundered a bit. I made a mistake of taking a sabbatical and writing a book. I would never do that again. I needed the rest, and that's just terrible, but I enjoyed writing it. I really did. Second book, was, actually co-written also, but it was, what do they call it? A ghostwriter, where you have somebody come in and you kind of dictate to them what you want to say, and then they sit down and write it out, and then you do the editing on it. And, then the third book was, I wanted Chip. I felt like Chip had some things inside of him that needed to be said. And I didn't know if he'd ever write a book. I just didn't know if he had that as a deal. And so I asked him to be a part of the process. And again, in that situation, we had a third writer actually that, we sat down with, who helped us with, a lot of the writing. And in that one, it worked really well because I had time to do the editing that I needed to. I rewrote, a couple of entire chapters because I didn't feel like they sounded like where I wanted to go. But the writer that helped us was good. I think he really caught, who we were and some of our things. And we did a lot of editing on it. So I don't know, I didn't want to write the third one, which is one of the reasons that we pulled a writer into it. The publisher really wanted us to do it. I felt like I didn't have time, and it ended up being something I'm pretty proud of, really.
Yeah, you mentioned ghostwriter or corrupt. I haven't had that. I have friends who do it, and it's a tough process on their end. But for the book sharing I did, it was a weird thing. We had a contract with one of the well-known denominations called the Assemblies of God, and they were going to put the book out, and they actually hired Greg. Do you remember Lindy Lowry, who was with Outreach Magazine back in the day? Yeah. So they flew Lindy out, and she spent a couple of days with us, outlining the book. And then, the people who were,
I think I know where this is going.
Yeah. The people who were, behind our book at the Assemblies of God, we'll just say laid off. Boom. And our book got dropped. And so we had this outline and nowhere to go. And then HarperCollins picked it up and said, yeah, we'll do it, and gave us a contract on it. So then we took the outline that the AG paid for and wrote the book. And then HarperCollins paid us for it. And we got paid like $22 for it. So it was a pretty good deal. But yeah, no, sorry. Back to the process thing. I love talking process. To have somebody like a Lindy, who's a great editor, to sit and help at least outline the thoughts and take it in a direction is hugely helpful, rather than, Chris, you sat down by yourself and said, okay, blank sheet of paper, let's write this thing, which I did with the book I wrote on my own. And that was brutal. That was just hard. Yeah.
I would much rather do that if I do another one. And I said I wasn't going to write a second one. But if I do write a third one, I think I'll get at least somebody to help, guide it a little bit.
I'd like to write another one just to use AI as the idea generator and editor. That might be inauthentic, but I think that would be very interesting, to feed some things in as far as the front end, and also helping you to edit just a little bit. What do you think about that?
Hey, here's a thought on the AI thing. I think it would be fascinating. I took some chapters of one of our books. I think it was the Together book sharing I did, and I fed it into AI, and I said, create study guides or discussion guides for this chapter. It did a really good job. Like it spit it right back out, and I looked at it, tweaked a couple things, but thought I could do so Chris, is it okay if we talk process a little bit? I'm sorry. I know this is, but do you guys know, Greg, you probably know Hugh Halter, Matt Smay, they wrote Tangible Kingdom a few years ago. They then put out a whole, this could be something endurance factor, actually, to be honest with you. They then put out a whole companion volume of that, which was basically how to take Tangible Kingdom and make it applicable, like how to go do this thing. And that actually sold more than Tangible Kingdom did. Like that actually, I could see AI like feed endurance factor into it and then, tell it what to do, what you're looking for. I could see AI really help you create this primer, something, whatever. Yeah. For it. Yeah. And then it's the practical application to the concepts of, I'm taking up too much time. We want to hear more about endurance factor.
No, that's good. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I think we could do a whole episode actually on AI. And I've used AI for idea generators when I've been writing columns or posts. And then what I really use it for is as an editor, because I'm just not a good self-editor. Most writers are not. And I think I haven't written a book since AI came out, but I think it would be a game changer for the process of writing a book to be able to have something like that helps you edit along the way. But Greg, I want to, just a couple minutes about endurance factor, because I know you guys just started a podcast.
Yeah.
About it. Tell us a little bit about, first the book. I don't know that you've really talked about it in length here. And then, what's the podcast about?
Yeah. The book, publisher was doing a separate thing, on ARC and came and did a photo, shoot with me, which that's real interesting. Not exactly your typical model, but they wanted to, they were doing various things that ARC was doing. And so they saw what we were doing and they said, you have got to write a book about, the retreat at Church Creek, the mental health for pastors, all of that. I was zero interested, because it's just a lot of work, transitioning from what I was doing before to doing what I'm doing right now. And, I just couldn't see time for it. And they pushed me. And then I said, if you'll let Chip Judd, who's my friend, counselor, former pastor, co-write it with me, I'll do that. And so they said yes. And so we decided we started at first chapter is this Darren Patrick story and, how, Darren, took his own life during COVID and how it impacted all of us and all that. And so it makes, quite a startling and engrossing, start to the book. And then we write about how can you live well and finish strong? Because very, very few leaders do. If you look at the Bible, it's there. You go, okay, let's take a look at all the leaders that finished strong. Very few did. And we read everything you read today, and we know that, that's a problem. But so we looked at. I would write half the chapter. Chip would write the other half, rather than collaborating on the whole thing. And I'd come at it from my Pollyanna point of view, and he would actually bring the sanctified psychology into his side. And I'm biased a little bit, but I think it's good. I really do. I think it's very, very helpful. We have now put together a 13-week follow-up to that, kind of an endurance factor sprint that we're testing out as a cohorts for people that go through the retreat at Church Creek. In fact, our first one is just coming out this week, and I think I'm anxious to see how that works. So that's kind of where it's at, and we're getting some real good feedback on it.
Cool. And you just released the podcast. How many episodes are you guys doing?
We just released two podcasts or two episodes last week. This is my fourth podcast today. Two of them were podcasts for that. And so the podcast is, it deals with the book, but it's also kind of mental health issues for pastors and leaders. And we kick around a lot of stuff with that.
So is it hard doing that podcast because you're a semi-regular on this podcast and the standard is so high.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you do this podcast and the quality, the standard, the topics we go into, it's got to be hard going to something like Endurance Factor. I doubt you probably never talk about Tesla. I doubt you get into the NFL, so I don't know. Yeah. Is it hard switching back?
I'm having fun with all of this. I've always wondered what it would be like to do a podcast, kind of like what you guys are doing right here, where you care, but you don't. You know, I mean, if somebody listens to it, it's great. If they don't, didn't cost much to do anyway. And you're able to kind of, you know, put it, I'm assuming that's how you feel about it.
That's so hurtful.
I think what Greg is saying, that we shouldn't care.
Yeah.
The quality is at the level where we really shouldn't care.
No, I love it. It's kind of fun just to sit around and talk.
No, that makes sense. Although we do care deeply, it doesn't come across that way.
I guess that's it. Yeah. And
some of us prepare.
The other one, or the endurance factor one, is, you know, more focused on a subject, and that's what we're doing. And, you know, that's great too. I enjoyed it, but I enjoy this.
I want to talk about one of our sponsors, and that's Intentional Reach. And they could be your partner in turning audio and video sermons into top-notch transcripts. And they specialize in sermon transcription, podcasts, conferences, interviews, webinars. If it's spoken, they transcribe it. And these transcripts can boost your online reach up to threefold. Search engines love text, and transcripts make your content more searchable. Plus, at about $400 a month, it's a cost-effective way to expand your audience. And they're not just for websites. They can be repurposed for newsletters, blogs, social media, and more. So check it out. Go to intentionalreach.com and hit Get Your Transcripts today. Cool. Well, at least one of us does. All right. Well, thanks. Hey, no, we all do.
You're going to skip your last question? Come on.
Do you want me to ask the all pastors?
I do. Yeah.
All right. Should all pastors write a book? Is that something that a lead pastor especially should do at some point, is write a book, whether it's self-published, published, whatever? Should they write a book?
If you're asking me, it's
why not?
Should all pastors speak up politically? Should all pastors, you know, do I don't know if there's something all pastors should do. I think it's kind of a good exercise though. And, if you have a subject that connects, most pastors' books are sermon series, right? That's how almost all of them are. And, so if you've got something burning inside of you and you feel like it would be important for, you know, people to, do more than just hear it on a Sunday, why not? Yeah.
I don't see any reason, you know, if a pastor wants to write a book, write a book. The nice thing about today is there's no barrier to publication. Mm-hmm. So you can put out anything you want to. I think it's funny. Sometimes a lot of pastors think they're writing a book when what they do is they take some sermon notes and they hand them to somebody, and that person is supposed to turn that into a book, which really, my opinion, it makes a terrible book. Great sermon series, terrible book, but it's okay. It's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. I would say, this is probably arrogant, but what we have done, the three of us, where you sit down and actually write a book where you don't, you know, maybe there's some sermons in there, but you write it, it's hard. Like it is hard. One time I got to have lunch with John Ortberg, who is one of my favorite authors. And I said, John, I heard that you find writing very, very easy. And he looked at me like I was crazy. He was in the middle of one of his books. He said, man, it's the hardest thing I do. And when I found out that it was hard for John Ortberg, it made me feel so much better. So I guess, Chris, to the question I demand you say, I would agree that, hey, if you've got a book and you write it, if you get it done by just grabbing some sermon outlines and having something filled out, that's great. But if you want to sit down and contribute to, you know, to what you think really needs to be out there, do it. But just know it's hard. And you're not going to get rich doing it unless you're about 3 or 4 of the top writers, make a lot of money. No, you know, you're probably not going to make any money doing it. My last royalty check was $6.32, and that is for a quarter.
You still get a royalty check?
I have 4 published books out there, and that was my royalty check.
Yeah, I remember when,
go ahead. Well, I was going to just say we gave the endurance factor to the cause. So whatever it makes, the Pastors Collective retreat at Church Creek does. And so anyway, we're not going to make any money on that.
Before I wrote my first book, I asked you, Geoff, because you had written at least one book at that point. And some of the advice you gave me is, one, it's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. And you could make more money by going to get a part-time job at a gas station or a Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
If you count in the hours that you're going to put into it. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I've made $0 on my books. One of them was for the cause as well. It wasn't my choice, but anyways.
Well, let's just say that 3 of my books have been for the cause. We'll just put it that way.
There you go.
I made money on my first book, but it was a well negotiated upfront. And when the publisher figured out that wasn't a good investment, I didn't get any more of those upfront deals. So, oh well.
Yeah.
I did get an advance on one of them, so I do lie, but it wasn't huge. Yeah. But yeah, no. So I think all of us agree that if you got a book in you and it fits your voice and fits your culture, write it. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really, really hard to do it the way that at least a lot of authors do it. So, good discussion. Thanks, guys, for jumping in on this. Thanks for being a part of this episode. We'd love for you to subscribe to the episode if you can. That helps it show up in your podcast app right away. Like it, and that would be awesome. If all 5 of you that listen would like it, that would double our ratings. I think that would be awesome. Also, there's a link in the show notes.
We're pushing 2,000 people listening. So let's just be honest here.
Yeah, no, there's more. And there's links in the show notes to some of the things we talk about. And also you can sign up for the newsletter that goes out, and we'd love for you to have that. So again, thanks, Geoff, Greg, and we will see you guys next week.